As humans, we all want to feel whole, happy, and content. The most well-rounded among us didn't achieve greatness without something to ground them. And those who shine the brightest often have many things that nurture their growth. In a field of flowers, the tallest bloom stands above the rest because it has acquired everything essential for its growth. Its vibrant petals attract attention, not because it seeks to be the center of it, but because it was determined to grow for its own sake. If you look at yourself and desire to grow like the tallest flower, you must be willing to seek the same essentials that help it thrive. A seedling in barren soil cannot blossom. You have to stretch your roots deep to find the nutrients you need. Hello and welcome to the Developed and the Dormant, the podcast where I share stories, reflections, and insights to inspire self-development and growth in ourselves and others. I'm your humble yet entertaining host, Darrell Minor. Today we're crafting my 21st century world-renowned recipe for the golden aura persona. This dazzling dish will help you unlock your greatest potential and leave your friends, family, and even strangers in awe at any gathering, event, or public space. For this recipe, you will need a generous helping of confidence, because it's the foundation of everything. A heaping tablespoon of a hobby, talent, or skill to keep life exciting. A sprinkle of faith or religion to ground you. A sturdy backbone for standing your ground. A pinch of an open mind to embrace new ideas. A dollop of perseverance to keep going when things get tough. And a topping of kindness and love to make it all worthwhile. Combine these ingredients thoughtfully, and you'll create a self-assured, self-sufficient version of yourself that shines wherever you go. You can find your confidence in the corner of your left heart and in the depths of your soul. You know, confidence is so essential to get you through most things in life, right? It's that internal guidance where you just know your worth, know your value. And I've seen too many people, right, who just don't know that. They don't have that. They haven't found it, right? But when you find that, your life changes for the better. Let me assure you of that. Confidence can come in different forms, but really what it all boils down to is knowing who you are and what you want, right? And doing what it takes to achieve what it is that you want and knowing that you're worthy of it. I often feel that self-esteem and confidence really go hand in hand, right? It's about wondering and knowing, are you worthy of this? Can you do this? Can I achieve this, right? Right? For a lot of us who don't have that confidence, that self-esteem, right? It is a little bit hard, right? And for some of us, it's drastically hard to try to navigate through this world. You know, I know for myself, when I was in middle school or when I was in high school, there are so many things that I did not do because I was so worried about what everybody else was going to say about me, right? And sure, you can say, well, that's high school, that's middle school, that's when you're a child. But we all know that some people never grow up, right? And some people navigate through the world thinking that the world is still school and they're still a child. And that's why you have bullies that are adults. That's why you have people who want to be catty and compare themselves to others, right? They never grew up. And so since they want to be bullies, you have people who are still nitpicking, right? And hurting and harming those who have low self-esteem and don't have that inner confidence, right? There are different levels and different versions of confidence and your self-worth, right? I'm going to start with appearance. When I was in school, I used to think that I was ugly, right? I used to feel like my bottom lip didn't match my top lip, right? Because my mother, she has a naturally larger bottom lip. And it just didn't, I felt it didn't match with the rest of my lips, right? Because I wanted big, fat, full lips, right? I didn't like my eyes. I wanted my eyes to be colored. I didn't like the shape of my hair or the shape of my head. I didn't like the side profile of my face, right? But the reality is I was comparing myself to what was deemed beautiful, right? Everybody else got attention, right? A lot of these other guys at my school or in the world, everybody wanted the natural physique, right? And in my song, Little Boy, right, that was supposed to be a song about me feeling that I was less than, right? And I eventually found my inner strength. And in one of those lines I wrote, I said, little boy, brown boy, stay silent and blend in. Everything you say is weightless. Only physical things get you noticed, right? Because I always felt everyone would give the attention to anyone that looked good. And I felt that because I wasn't getting this same attention, because I was overlooked, because people would make fun of my hair or what I did or what I said, that I was not desired after. I was nothing to be paid attention to. But here's the thing. One day, and I'll never forget it, one day I took a piece of paper and I just jokingly, playfully wrote, "You're gorgeous" on it. And I made a smiling face. I looked at that piece of paper, I said it again, I started to see examples, and eventually that itty bitty snowflake started to fall onto the ground and tumble and become a ball that became bigger and bigger and bigger. Right? Small, humble beginnings. I wrote it down. I said it as a joke, but then I started to believe it. I said, you know what? I do look good. I don't look so bad. Right? Then I started to take pictures of myself. I started to look at myself in the mirror. I started to dress a ways. Then I started dyeing my hair to the color that I wanted. I started to look the way I wanted to look. Then I started trying different things. Then I started to take modeling pictures of myself. I started to wear earrings. I started to wear my hair in different styles. And over time, in my soul, I started to say, you know what? I do look good. And then when I said that in my soul and I started to believe that, my environment started to change, right? People started to tell me, you're handsome. You're a handsome guy. You're good looking. And it started to grow and grow and grow. Then there were some things that I did that were different that I knew that a lot of people didn't necessarily, I suppose, agree with or thought looked funny or whatever, but I did it anyway because that's what I wanted to do, right? I said, this is what I want to try. And that built even more confidence in me. And my sister would often encourage me. Sometimes she would say, do what makes you feel happy, right? When you get that inside right, everything on the outside starts to follow. When you tell the mind to do something, the body will follow, right? Then eventually I started to look at myself and I did things that made me feel good, not for the attention of others, but because I knew in my soul, this is what I want, right? This is the way I want to look in the world. And I'm not doing it for everyone else. Now I walk in the world and I feel I am the prettiest, beautiful, most amazing looking thing. And nobody can tell me anything, right? Because I've got that inside right. Right? When I was younger, anybody could tear me down. Anybody could make fun of me, right? But I realized I was never ugly, right? Because even though kids would make jokes, they would make fun of the way I looked, right? Nobody ever said you're ugly. Nobody ever said you're ugly and meant it, right? Nobody even said it as a joke. And I found that courage in myself to say, you know what? I'm going to show up this way. I know who I am. And even if you all like or hate, it's not my business. This is what I want to do, right? That's where that confidence starts, and it grows and it grows. And for everyone, that's really, again, that's where it starts. What do you want to do? What do you want to see for yourself? Make that change, and then your environment changes, right? But don't do it for the environment. Do it for yourself, and you start to see results. And when you realize what you have and you start to see the beauty in yourself, expand on that. For example, even before I had braces, everyone would tell me I always had such a pretty smile, right? And I understood that, right? When I finally got braces, I already thought my smile was perfect. Right? But since I keep hearing that and everyone tells me I have such a pretty smile, I smile all the time. Right? But again, it's not for other people. It's because I know what I have. Right? And people value you more when you expand on what you know you have. Right? It goes back to episode 5. It's not about ego, right? Ego versus pride. I do this for me. And when you shine internally for what you know that you have, everybody else around you sees that, right? There's a version of confidence like in the way you carry yourself, right? If you walk around slouched, if you walk around with your head down, if you can't maintain eye contact, if you can't stand on your own 2 feet and stand on what you believe is right, it's easy for people who feel that they're above you to walk all over you. It's easy for people to say they don't respect you. And again, it's not about walking into a room being the loudest person just for attention. It's about knowing quietly, confidently that you know you deserve to be heard. Imagine you go somewhere to get something handled and you go to a counter and the other person on that counter there is there to help you. And you go to them and you speak to them softly. You keep your head down. You don't speak loudly enough. You can't maintain eye contact. You speak very meekly. And then the person across from the counter constantly has to add, what? What did you say? Right? They get annoyed. They get tired, right? Because you're afraid or whatever you've gone through, like what we said in these past episodes, whether it's trauma, whether it's you've gone through something very horrendous, whether you have self-esteem issues, right? If you're not able to stand on your own 2 feet and say what you need, right, then the people around you will feel that you're not worthy of that respect. And of course, granted, shyness and self-esteem does not go in hand, right? Those are two different situations. But I want you to picture going up to that counter, speaking your mind, right? Not aggressively, right? Not assertively, not with an attitude, but going up there and simply speaking. You maintain eye contact because you know you've come here to do something and you know you must be serviced. You know you want to be heard. We all want connections. We all want to feel seen. We all want to be heard. So speak as such. Speak as if you know you came here to be serviced. You came here to be heard. You have something to say. I remember when I was in school, right? Even in high school or middle school, I would hate sometimes to be called on because whenever they would say, Darrell, everybody in their chair would turn around to look at me and all those eyes on me would make me feel so uncomfortable. Sometimes I would speak softly. Sometimes I couldn't even look at all the eyes staring back at me. And I would stumble on my words and I wouldn't know what to say, right? Because in the back of my head, I was always wondering who was getting ready to laugh at my voice. Who's going to make fun of the fact that my voice cracks, right? Because that's around the time of puberty, right? Who's getting ready to make fun of the fact that I don't answer this question correctly? But today, because I know I have a voice, because I know I'm here to do something, because I know I've come into this world with a purpose and I can stand on my own 2 feet, that I can look in the eyes of the person that's asked me the question and everybody in the room that's looking back at me. Why? Because when you have that strength, you command the room. And this is the reason why you should go through life without regrets. Be happy, right? Life is going to do what it do. What did NDRE say? Release the guilt about why things happen the way they do because life is going to do what it do. I remember in 7th grade, right? It was snowy, it was cold, it was wet. And as we are coming into the building, those that get dropped off by their parents, I remember the entrance to the cafeteria was slippery and wet. And there were kids that were sitting there facing the door, waiting to get a show from anybody that would slip and fall, right? And then when somebody did slip and fall, they, oh my God, look at him, this, that, and the third, right? And I would hate that type of attention. I would hate to anybody to see me slip just because I didn't want everybody to laugh at me, right? But today, first of all, you'll never see me trip. But that's just a joke, right? But even if I do, not only do I think it's okay, but I laugh too. Why? Because it happens to the best and the worst of us. It's not the end of the world. I don't care what you see because the reality is based on the personality that I have, the goodness in my heart. If I fall, somebody's going to come to help me, right? Even if I can't get up, someone's going to help me. And that's all right. It's okay. That's another reason why it doesn't bother me. It happens to the best and the worst of us, and that happens in any situation. I remember being in the lunchroom in high school. I saw somebody I knew, and I asked the girl that I was talking to beside me, can you call out for him, please? She says, why can't you do it? Because I'm afraid we're around all these people. If I shout, everybody's going to look at me. It's silliness. Today, I naturally speak to anyone and I mind my business. And no matter what I say, I often see people are looking at me anyway. Why? Because they're interested in what I have to say. They pay attention to me because I do it with a purpose, right? When you step into who you are and you step into it confidently, right? The world pays attention to you. Now, some of us may not want that attention. Some of us may feel like we don't want all the spotlight on us, right? This is for the people who have low self-esteem and for the people who haven't found their confidence. You'll find that once you step into it, your world becomes so much better. Because when you rise up, other people will follow you. But it starts with stepping out on faith, taking that first step to seeing where you could be. And of course, you're going to get naysayers, right? But when you get those naysayers, most of the time, anybody that criticizes another person for stepping into their truth, stepping into their authenticity, is typically a person who has not healed in themselves. And that's not your problem, dearest, right? Because when you shine, it's going to shine through others anyway. Right? And confidence can come in different ways too. Like, for example, I've said, I don't fear rejection. I don't fear rejection in offering friendship, in offering love, right? Or saying that I like a crush, right? I don't have any fear of that. Why? Because I know that if you say no, that's not a blow to me, right? You have your reasons for saying no. I just know I took action for what I wanted to do. I said that I was going to offer friendship. I was going to offer love to this person. If you don't want it, that's fine. I will find somebody who does, right? That's not the end of the world. And anybody who goes around and says, look, so-and-so said he likes me. So-and-so said he wanted to be friends. I don't like it, right? That's your problem. That does not hurt me. I did what I wanted to do. You can take it or leave it. I was just having a conversation with someone who I believe we could have a great friendship from or out of each other, and we can grow from each other. And I believe the two of us knew we wanted to become friends. But I knew in my soul, and eventually it came out, that this other guy, he wanted to be my friend, but he was afraid of saying it to me because he was afraid I would have taken it the wrong way. Right? Now, if the roles were reversed, I would have said it regardless of what he thought, and I would have let the pieces fall where they may and clean up the rest. If he took it the wrong way, I would have said, no, this is what I mean. But I would have never let the fear of rejection stop me from standing in what I said I was going to do. Right? Because if you miss out and you choose not to do something for fear of rejection, or self-esteem, or you don't have the confidence to do what you said you're going to do, you never know the opportunities that are going to pass you by. And again, it starts with what you want to be in your mind, and the body will follow. And I said in a previous episode, I said I woke up one morning and I decided to be great. I walked into my job and I spread kindness and I showed smiles. I got laughs because that's what I wanted to be. And I spread that. And that trickled down into everyone else, right? This is because I said, I know who I am and what I want to do, right? It's about finding that confidence. It takes years to get to this level of confidence, right? A lot of people go through trials and tribulations that make them great, right? But you can either choose to let that hurt you and destroy you, or you can choose to let it be your foundation. The other thing that it takes to make a well-rounded person is you need hobbies, talents, and skills. Hobbies, talents, and skills are typically found during childhood, but they can be obtained at any point in life with a keen eye. It is so essential for someone to find solace and recreation in something they find fun, right? Something to do. A person that does nothing is a person that will find themselves rotting in despair, right? Because life is not just about work or responsibilities. You need recreation and something that fulfills you, right? Because that's a lot like an animal. A lot like animals in the animal kingdom. Animals wake up, they look to their left, they look to their right, they eat, they use the bathroom, they sleep, and they do it all over again. What type of life is that? But even some animals find some type of recreation, right? You need something to do. I have seen too many people in this world who tell me, well, I watch TV, I scroll on the phone, I go to work, and I guess I hang out with my friends. That's not a life, dearest. That's nothing. My ex was a bum, right? Now that I really look back at it, he was a bum. He worked, he went out and partied with his friends, he drank a lot, and when he went home, he scrolled through Instagram. When I say, what do you like to do? What do you want to do? I guess I like to go out. I don't really do anything for real, right? And when you do something like that, when you strip everything down and you get in the shower, when you look at yourself in the mirror, when you are alone by yourself, you look and say, who am I? What do I have, right? Now, I've had to learn not to be such a workaholic because I based a lot of the things that I do around my purpose, right? I base that as my personality. Sometimes I wonder if I didn't have all my crafts, all my talents, all my skills, then what would I be, right? But I had to get away from that mindset. I had to realize there's something so much more to me, right? But if you have nothing that you do, and then you're alone with yourself and you ask, okay, who am I? And you have nothing to show for it. You have nothing that you do that you give back to the world. You have nothing that you do that inspires and motivates others, right? What do you have? You'll see that I reference a guy in one of these episodes from my job who says he goes home, he works, he sleeps, he might go out to the movie theaters or hang out with people, and that's about it. He has no hobbies, no talents, no skills, but the reality is there's something for everybody. You can find something. He just doesn't have the drive to do it. My own mother, she runs a skincare business, right? She reads, she might garden a little bit, but she can't stay consistent in that, which makes me feel that's not really her hobby, right? That's not really something she wants to do. Because when she's done fooling around on the computer, working on her business, what does she do? She'll watch a little TV. She'll sit around. She'll stare at the wall. She sits in silence, right? She gets bored. And she doesn't want to admit that she's bored because she always says there's always something to do. Let me explain something to you all. Errands, responsibilities is not a form of recreation, right? That does not pass the time. That's stuff you have to do, not stuff you want to do. And when we tell her she needs a hobby, she needs something great, something that can help her become great, she says, no, I'm content. Like, I don't need a hobby. I don't need this. I don't need that, right? But she's a boring person, just like my ex, just like that guy at the job, right? Now, you can give back to the world. You can do things. Everyone has value, and everyone can contribute to their community, right? But if you don't have something to occupy your mind, something that stimulates you, something that makes you get up out of the bed in the morning and say, this is what I'm looking forward to, you will watch your life go by. You will watch your life go by. And the thing about it is, anyone that says they hang out with their friends, especially ones that do that 24/7, you cling to them because you don't have lives of your own, right? You're interested in what they do, right? How can I get my excitement out of you, right? Because what happens if you lose those friends? You're not able to hang out with them anymore. They move away. God forbid one of them passes away, right? What happens if you don't have your inner circle, right? Because I always say relationships change, right? So if you don't have that, but you're only clinging to other people for your fun and recreation, what do you have? What will you have, right? You will watch your life go by. And me, when I was young, when I was in high school, I published my first ebook to Amazon Kindle, right? When I was in high school, a freshman, I was doing big things, and I compare myself to the other guy at my job who has done nothing, even at this ripe age, right? And it's the fact that I've been making moves. I've made music. I'm making this podcast. I've written books. I've made and sold art, right? I've did all these things because I wanted to make an impact on the world. I wanted to give back to the world. I wanted to see the motivation. I wanted to know what I did in this life has a purpose, and I made it so. But what do you hope to accomplish when you look at your life and you have nothing to show for yourself? Even if it's not the goal is to spread something to the world, it's about yourself, right? I don't just do things just for the world. It's not just for money. I do this because this is what I'm good at. This is what I enjoy. And this brings me joy, right? You need a hobby, talent, or skill. Thirdly, you need a faith in something. Low quality faiths and religions are the ones imposed upon you by your parents and guardians. You can get a good quality faith when you do your own research and find the best fit for yourself. I never mean to make or spread my own beliefs in anything that I do, right? I don't want to impose anything. I don't even want to influence anybody to do anything from my viewpoint, right? Except for self-development and growth, right? Everybody, of course, is entitled to what they believe. But I think that I've found a lot of people who do not have a faith in something often find themselves in a lot of problems that they don't know how to get themselves out of. Right? I don't believe it is good for someone to impose their own religion onto others or to preach the word of God and all that. But you need a faith in something to get you through the tough times. When I was younger, I would go through things that were tumultuous, some things that were just too hard for me, and I didn't pray. I didn't necessarily go to a faith. I just soldiered through it, right? And I think it left me in a worse state. I think I still felt unfulfilled. But just in the same way that we're all humans, we all desire connections, a community, to feel seen, to be heard. We all need something to put our faith in, to get us through something difficult. When I discovered my own spiritual faith, everything started to make sense. I started to see the world from a bigger picture, right? I was able to navigate through tough things because I knew there was something I could fall back on. And I saw both sides. I saw what it was like to go through the world without a faith and to go through the world with a faith. And I saw the drastic difference. You know, my sister has been going through a lot, right? Mentally, emotionally. She feels weighed down, right? And she's struggling with that. Doesn't have anyone to talk to, despite how much we try to give to her, right? That's not really something we can do for her. We can just be there for her. But it's not, in most times, it's not enough. And she's struggling with so much mentally, it weighs down on her. That I told her the difference that I saw for myself when I went through the world without a faith and when I went through the world with a faith. You know, there's a scene in The Crown on Netflix where Philip, the Queen's husband, is talking to his mother. And his mother had been through so much, right? Experimentations, medicines, anesthesia, all of these experiments that harmed her body. And her son said that all the things that you've been through are remarkable. You're such a stronger person for it. What she said was, I couldn't have done it alone. I had help every step of the way. And she was talking about the crucifix or the Bible in her hand or something, right? She had a faith. And her son, he said, my faith has been dormant. She said, that's not good. She said, if I can give you any advice, the same way I told my sister about that scene from The Crown, she said, you need a faith. It helps. No, it's everything. You need something to believe in. And again, I'm not pushing an agenda. I would never push an agenda, nor would I ever express my own spiritual beliefs openly, right? But it's about you need to find something to hold on to, right? Because I remember, and I said this in another episode, I remember when I was going home from a Lyft driver, and he said, if you're going to cling to something that works, right? Something you can fall back on, something you know is going to be there, right? Because faith can go so far, right? It's not visible, but it's something to hold on to, right? And it's the same as hope, right? If you know General Iroh from the Nickelodeon cartoon show Avatar, right? What he said was so impactful is that never give in to despair, right? In our darkest moments, hope is something we choose to give ourselves. And that is the meaning of inner strength, right? It's the same thing that goes hand in hand with faith, right? Fourth thing to becoming a well-rounded person is you need an open mind. Open minds are typically hard to come by, but they're becoming easier to obtain these days. The best open minds are the ones filled with knowledge and acceptance. Typically, a closed and traditionalist mindset is the one that causes the most grief in our society and in many people internally. Let's be clear about that. An open mind is essential in a world driven by hate and ignorance. Let me be clear about something. As humans, we all form our own opinions about things and criticize others, and that's natural as humans. But I have seen so many people who criticize and misjudge others, and they don't know the half of someone's story, right? We don't know what each other is going through, yet we're so quick to put a stamp, a label, and judge, right? Right? And again, we all judge, period, right? Nobody is exempt from that. Nobody is exempt from that. I found myself judging others, right? But it's not out of a narcissistic or egotistical thing. It's because I hold a standard that I hold myself at and others at. And that's typically because I want to see the world in a greater way, right? But I often find that I take that a little bit too far and misjudge people, right? Which is why it's so essential to take a second opinion, right? Really think about what it is that you're saying. Let me explain something else that a lot of you all don't seem to realize or want to remember or acknowledge. The world, let me say one more time. I said the world is larger than your neighborhood, right? There is so much more to your community, to your city. I'm not even talking about your country. There is a world out there, right? There are people who are living entirely different experiences than you on the other side of the world, right? What one person believes differs from you. You all have no right to form an opinion and then be rooted to that idea just because that's what you know, right? That's why it makes no sense. And I can't stand to see ignorant people come to a conclusion about something that they have never experienced or tried. This is another reason why I say life is amazing. Because if you see that you have a judgment about something, but you see how all these other things tie into each other and they're intricate, then you start to see from a bigger point of view, right? It's like my father used to always say, you see the world through tunnel vision, right? And you can't see everything else in the broader perspective because you can only see it from this narrow point of view. You should never be a person, and I've always been against this, you should never be a person who says, well, all I know is, or I don't know anything about, right? That's ignorance. Take the time to get to know, because here's the thing. Most of you all might be surprised if you try this very thing you don't know anything about and end up liking it, right? Might end up being interested in it, might end up learning something, right? Which is so essential for our community. Because we learn new things every day, you just don't realize that you do. So why not take the first step to make sure that you learn something new? Make it purposeful, right? Be open to it. The fifth thing is perseverance, right? And this almost goes hand in hand with faith, right? Determination and drive is so important to achieve the things you want because the power is in the tongue and you have what you say. All of that is real. I remember when I was in first grade, my teacher told me that I often choose the easy route just to get through it, right? And I told my father that, and he said, yes, you do. You should strive to do something bigger, right? You should strive to do something harder, right? And I have seen how much hard work gets you, right? There was a time, I think about 2 years, where I had learned a lot about hard work and perseverance to get the things that I want, right? You can make the life you want. You can have the things you want with drive and determination, right? That's that perseverance, right? I've made it a point not to say I can't, right? I don't say that. And I found myself often saying when things are rough, when I'm making something or doing something, I often say, I don't want to give up. So I don't. Right. And again, it starts from the mind and the body will follow. Right. Because I've always been a person who, when I want something, I strive to get it in the way I want it. Right. And if you make sure you do with a solid plan and a goal, it will happen. Right. And if it doesn't happen the way you want it, however it comes was for the best. And most likely, almost all the time, the way you weren't expecting it is for the better. Right? But the bottom line is you strove to get it. Right? And I have said before, anyone says that I can't, there's not an excuse. Right? You will find that the roadblocks that you think are there often are non-existent. With perseverance, you know you can overcome anything. There was a time where I was ready to move out of the place that I was living, right? I was so unhappy there for millions of reasons. I felt so uncomfortable. And I said, look, when this is done, when the time comes for me to leave, I'm going, right? I'm going to make sure I go, and I'm going to better places, and I'm going to move to better days. Months later, that's exactly what I had. And I put the pieces in place to make sure it happened. And I live comfortably where I want to and the way I want to. And I strive to make sure it stays that way, right? Not to say it's always going to be roses and peaches and cream, right? Because I've always said throughout this podcast, change happens all the time, right? But it's in the perseverance and making sure that you strove to get what you want, right? And when you go through the hard work, you know that it's earned. 6 is backbones. Backbones are the most essential part to this recipe. Good quality backbones are the ones that are made of platinum and welded in an upright stance. But backbones aren't found in others or at your local store. They have to be homegrown. This is not about being the most aggressive, being the most assertive, being the most meanest or rudest, right? It formulates in different people in different ways, but it all comes back to being able to stand on your 2 feet and stand strong in your morals and your conviction. Everybody has their own agendas, their own ways of doing things that just don't mesh well or agree with other people, right? But it's about you being able to stand up and fight for you. People are going to come at you aggressively. People are going to come at you condescendingly. People are going to come at you in different ways. Some people do these things just to get under your skin. And let me be clear. You only allow people to disrespect you for as long as you are willing to allow it. I've seen so many people who just continually allow other people to disrespect them, their space, their being. They don't like it, right? They don't do anything about it, though. But as I've always said, you don't have to do much to make a person respect you. And most times, you only have to say it once. When you do it just that one right time. And if people still can't respect that, you've got to inch it up and take it up a notch until the person understands that you mean business, right? Because only you can stand up for you, even if you have someone to fight for you. Let's be clear. Change happens all the time. And the person you rely on, anything and any circumstance can change where you are without this person, right? So in the end, you have to stand your ground for what you believe is right. Right? Because these people who are traumatized or hurt or enjoy seeing hurt people, and I said that in the trauma episode, people who enjoy hurting others are people who have been hurt themselves, and then they spread that trauma to others, right? But if you're a person who allows other people to walk over you like a doormat, it will continue and continue and continue, right? Because they feel they can get away with this. They feel like it's easy to manipulate you because they have something to play with, something to take their anger out on. When you show someone in whichever way feels right, aggressively, assertively, quietly, but whatever it is, when you show these people that you're not to be played with, that will be the last time they try to play with you, right? Because no one wants to be played with. No one wants to feel like a toy, right? But it's about what are you going to do to stand in your conviction, to stand in what you feel is right, right? Because the minute you do, it's over. I've seen too many people who allow this to continue. I've known a guy who his parents don't respect his boundaries, have disrespected him in his childhood, have traumatized him, and they still come to his home, belittle him. They don't respect his space. They move things around, and he still allows them to come into his home every year and do the same thing. Why? Because he hasn't stood up on his backbone and said enough is enough. I've known a guy who allows his roommates to belittle him and disrespect him, call him names. He's going through a tumultuous time with his health, his mental being, his emotional state, but he hasn't found his backbone to say enough is enough. There are millions of ways that I have found to check people, right? Because people look upon me, and a lot of people like to mistake kindness for weakness. But you'll often find in the way that I carry myself and the way I speak, I am the last bitch you can ever feel like you can disrespect and get away scot-free for it. Because one way or another, I'm going to get you, right? Because if I don't, right, what does that show to everyone around me? That looks like I can't stand on my own 2 feet, right? That sets an example that, we can easily get over him. We can easily abuse him and use him. That does not show someone that's becoming. And then the first person that's wronged me, what's stopping them from doing that again and again and again? If you don't stand firm the first or the second time, it will never end, right? And it's not even about disrespect. It can be about management. It can be about relationships. It can be about a simple disagreement. If you can't stand in your morals and standards, or if you have morals or standards and then they switch up and change, you never had them in the first place, right? A sturdy backbone is the most essential part to becoming a well-rounded person. You've got to hold on to something. It's about the respect for yourself. One more time, I said it's about the respect for yourself. And let me explain something else to you all. When you go to a person and you let them know, even respectfully, or you come to them, look them dead in their eyes and say you don't like X, Y, and Z, especially if other people around you see that, not only do they know not to play with you, but it shows that you are a person that respects yourself and is deserving of respect. That builds morale, right? That builds a strong rapport. It builds a strong rapport. And let me tell you all one more thing. A person who lives in their truth and their morals and authenticity is a person that can't be rocked by anything. And I'm not talking about in the egotistical way. I'm talking about in the prideful way, right? There's a clear difference. And lastly, number 7, kindness and love, right? Kindness and love is in the right corner of your heart and on the surface of your soul. We're all able to give kindness to our neighbors, and you know that, right? It is my pleasure to spread kindness to this world, right? We know how much the world is void of that. We know how far that goes. You know that. You know what small gestures do. You know what a smile and a compliment does. You know how that feels, right? And we need more of that. There was a time when I was in middle school and I had to get to class, but there was a girl who dropped her bag of pencils all over the floor, right? She looked embarrassed. And while I could have went straight to class, something in my soul said that ain't right. So I knelt down and I helped her pick everything up, right? That's who I am, right? And I know that that goodness was going to come back to me tenfold, not because that was the expectation, but because that's what I wanted to do. That was the right thing to do, right? It's my pleasure to walk into my job and to see that someone's got a haircut and say, you look so good. It's my pleasure to comfort someone and ask them if they need anything. It's my pleasure to let somebody know that I'm in their corner when they're going through a tough time. Right? There's a girl at my job who often has to check things, and she can be overcrowded, right, by everyone else's work. And I make it a point to make sure she's okay, right? Even though she may not speak good English, someone came before me and whispered to me, she doesn't speak good English. And I said, oh, what a shame, because I want her to understand me and know that I care. And I told him, I said, you know what? She may not understand me, but everyone understands a smile. Because when it came down to it, when I didn't feel like doing my work and I didn't feel good, what did she do? That girl came back around and she helped me, right? That's what kindness does. Right? And there was a moment where I had to tell my landlady a problem that I was having, right? And I said, okay, well, let me start with this. I said, but first of all, you look great, right? You look fantastic. She said, oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much, right? And it's my joy, it's my brightness that I give to other people. Even the other guy that was standing in the room thought that was funny. He thought that was funny. He thought that was brightening, right? So when I leave out of there, what they say is, you have a great day, right? That's what it's all about. And nothing fills me more joy than when people say you brightened my day, right? That's what it's all about, right? Because friendliness and warmth is often well received, especially in a world where there seems to be less and less of it, right? And of course, you're going to get some people who see that kindness and feel they can take advantage of it. But that just goes back to the last point, the backbone, right? Don't allow people to think that your weakness is a kindness. Goodness, I said that in the reverse. Your kindness is a weakness, right? That's where you need to stand clear on your morals and your boundaries. But always show kindness because you will be loved more for it. But don't do it for accolades, right? Do it because that's what this world needs, right? Because you will receive that back to you. And ladies and gentlemen, when you combine all these ingredients together, that is what makes a self-sufficient, self-reliant, and well-rounded person. I often go through life and I'm proud of where I've come. And because I polish myself and try to become the best version of myself, I always think about the future. And I always say, I'm excited to see who this new person is. And you too can take that first step to seeing a better version of you.